Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be making a fall card using the Caring Leaves stamp set. This is in the new Stampin' Up! Mini Catalog, September through December 2024. This is a standalone stamp set. There are no dies or any other products that go along with it. It just comes by itself. And it's very sweet and simple. It is 2 different leaves. You get the outline and then the stamp that would fill in the color on the inside, and then 2 different sentiments. Some things never change, and you're simply the best. So today I'm going to be pulling in a few additional products to go along with this. One of my other favorite new items in the mini catalog is this Forever Plaid 3D embossing folder. So we're going to use that for the background. And then something from the annual catalog, I'm actually pulling in the dies called the Thoughtful Wishes dies. I'm not using the stamp set, but there are some foliage dies in this set that I really like to go along with our stamp set today. And lastly, I am using my favorite Stylish Shapes dies. I'm using the circle die out of that today. So I'm starting out with a Pebbled Path card base. This is cut at 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2 inches. So this will be a top fold card. On top of that, for the front, I am using a 4 inch by 5 1/4 piece of vanilla cardstock. And then we're going to emboss our Night of Navy piece, but this is starting out at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. For the area where we're going to put the main focal image, I am using a vanilla circle. This was the largest circle out of the Stylish Shapes dies. And then I have a few additional pieces of cardstock. These basically were just kind of extras that I grabbed off of my desk. So this is a good way to kind of use up some scraps that you might have laying around. I'm going to be stamping some leaves on a piece of vanilla. I'm going to also stamp a sentiment onto a piece of vanilla. And then I have some Pebbled Path, Mossy Meadow, and Copper Clay just to do a little bit of die cutting with. Just need a few little kind of scrap pieces. And then the inks that we're going to be using are Pebbled Path, Copper Clay, Wild Wheat, and Mossy Meadow. All right, so my first step here is I'm taking my piece of Night of Navy cardstock and I am going to put it into my 3D Forever Plaid embossing folder. I like to line the bottom of my cardstock up with this black line that's on the front of the embossing folder. And then I'm using the larger of the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machines. And for the platform, you're going to be using the main platform, which is number 1. So after the platform number 1, you put your embossing folder with your cardstock on top. And then you're going to grab number 4, the gray piece, and put that on the very top of your sandwich. And then you just start cranking it through. That's our piece of Night of Navy. Has that really fun plaid pattern. Before I get to the decorative elements of the card, I am going to go ahead and get the base all assembled. And I am just going to use some liquid glue first and get this Night of Navy piece glued to my Very Vanilla. Get that centered on the Very Vanilla. And then I'm going to use some dimensionals to put this whole panel onto my card base. And we'll just get that centered the best we can here. The next thing, before I start stamping and doing my additional die cutting, I'm going to get this little circle piece ready. And what I want to do with this is I do want it to kind of be hanging off the edge just a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming and then line that up with some of these layers here. Let me just grab my paper trimmer. I'm probably going to trim, let's see, 1 inch is too much. We're going to go about 1/2 inch. And that's just 2 of these lines past the cutting edge. I'm just going to hold it firmly so it doesn't roll and just do a quick trim. So that gives me that blunt edge, nice straight edge that I can then line up with our base layers. And this one I've decided to also just glue directly onto my blue card base. Here I had used this for something else on the back. That's okay. Getting good use out of my scraps today. Okay. I'm going to line this up with the edge of the blue piece. Next, we're going to cut out our little die cut pieces. And like I said, these are all out of that Thoughtful Wishes set. These are kind of like those additional pieces that come along with the set. They don't coordinate with a stamp, but they're extra things that you can cut out. And I just love that this set has all these additional pieces. It's going to work really well with our Caring Leaves set. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to take this kind of little flowery looking piece. I'm going to cut a copper clay out of that. And then all of these leaves that are kind of shaped similarly, I'm going to cut that out of Mossy Meadow. And then there's these two that are kind of more branchy or like a full plant. One has some little flowers on the ends. One is basically just kind of just the branches and a couple additional leaves. These I'm each going to do out of the Pebbled Path. And that's just going to give me some nice basic like twigs and foliage and things to add to my little arrangement that I'm going to do. All right, now that we have our die cut pieces all cut out, or our little foliage pieces all cut out, we're going to move on to the stamping. So again, I just have a piece of Very Vanilla that I just had cut off of the side of another piece. It doesn't have to be any specific size. And basically I'm going to be stamping 3 different leaves. Again, this is the Caring Leaves stamp set. And what I want to do is use Pebbled Path as kind of the base of my leaf, or, you know, the stem and veins part of the leaf. So you can stamp this part and then fill it in with the colored portion, and you can do them the same color, you can do them different colors, or you can use each of these by themselves. There's really a lot of different ways you can use this set. But for our card today, I'm going to stamp, like I said, the outline of the leaves in Pebbled Path. So I think I will do 2 of this leaf and just 1 of this one. And then I'm going to color or fill them in with different colors. So like I said before, our colors we're using are Mossy Meadow, Wild Wheat, and Copper Clay. And I think we'll do a Copper Clay of this little single leaf here. So I'm just going to ink that up real well. And you'll notice all my stamps kind of have a little bit of a pinkish tinge to them. I have used them with red and some darker oranges and things like that. And they do stain, but they are clean, so a stain is not going to hurt anything. And because they're see-through, it's very easy to get them lined up. These are kind of a whimsical leaf. You know, there's the veining on the one side, but not on the other. But when you stamp the filled in part, there's spaces for that veining. So it's kind of a whimsical look. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's still fairly easy to get lined up. Okay, then we're going to use Mossy Meadow. Actually, let's do Wild Wheat first. This is kind of that goldish yellow color. Get that inked up real well. So when I line these up, I try to line up the middle vein and then one of these kind of off to the side here, just to get it mostly lined up. Okay, and then I'm going to clean this stamp and we'll do one more in Mossy Meadow. Again, just ink up real well. And okay, there we go. And there are our stamped leaves. Now, what I'm going to do with these, because there are no matching die cuts and I didn't stamp them directly onto my card front, like I didn't stamp them directly onto this piece, I'm going to actually fussy cut these out. And if you've watched any of my other videos, I have mentioned I am not a huge fan of fussy cutting. I would far rather use a punch or a matching die. But these little images are very easy to cut out with a scissor. So I really can't complain too much anyway. And again, with it being kind of already kind of a whimsical looking leaf, it certainly doesn't have to be perfect. All right, and there's our first leaf already cut out. So I'm going to go ahead and get these other two cut out and then we'll come back. As you can see, I got all three of my little leaves cut out and ready to go. And before I start arranging all my little pieces on my card front, I am going to stamp the sentiment. And I've decided I want to use right from the same set here, this You're Simply the Best. I have a 1-inch piece of very vanilla cardstock. It's several inches long, but I just, again, grabbed a scrap and I'm going to be cutting it down. And I'm going to use that Pebbled Path ink again. So I have my stamp on an acrylic block. I'm just inking it up with Pebbled Path. And I'm just going to kind of stamp it off to the side over here and then cut it down once we get everything else kind of in place. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and get everything arranged on the card front. One little tip that I wanted to show you, if you ever are, working on a card and you're wanting to keep it nice and flat on your desk for this type of a thing, like we're going to be arranging all these pieces, or maybe you're trying to take a photo of it straight down, but it's not staying completely closed. You can take a low-tack tape. I've shown this before on my channel. This is kind of like the sticky part of a Post-it note. And you can just grab that or painter's tape or something like that, roll it back on itself and stick it inside your card and shut it. And that should help hold it closed so that you can then work on it without it kind of flapping open on you. So just one little tip there. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so I'm going to be using my liquid glue for all of this. And I'm going to start with one of our leaves. Just kind of put a little scribble of glue. And I'm not going to be using a ton. I can always kind of come back in at the end and kind of get some glue underneath different pieces if I need to. I'm not putting much because I want to leave room to tuck the little foliage pieces in here and there. So I am actually going to start with all three of my big leaves. Little scribble of glue on the back. I'm just going to kind of stair step them down the front. Just like that. And then I think I want to, you know what, I'm going to trim this piece. It's hard to see. Let me hold it up a little bit. So it's kind of a double open leaf. The inside's die cut out. I'm going to cut these apart so that we can tuck them into a couple different places. So one little snip there. And let's see here. I'm going to add a little touch of glue down here. And you can see I'm kind of trying to go off the edge just a little bit, but I don't want to go completely off the card. So I'm going off, off the circle, but it's still over the top of like the base layers, just because I still want it to fit into my envelope and not, risk damaging the different little pieces. And stick that one there. I'm going to take one of these more full leaves in the Mossy Meadow. And also kind of tuck that down here. I might go a little bit under that. There we go. Next, I'll take this copper clay piece. And again, just a little bit of glue at the bottom. I want a little bit of orange, that orange kind of over on this side, so I'm just tucking it there a little bit. And let's see. Now I'm starting to kind of think about where am I going to put my sentiment. Do a little bit of a cut here. Okay. I think I'm going to have my sentiment there. And to me right now, it really looks kind of disconnected from the main portion of this image, but I'm okay with that because I am going to also add just a little bit of ribbon here. And I'll show you how we'll do that after I get the rest of these little pieces kind of glued on and tucked in. So let's do this other green piece right there. Now for these, I'm going to actually take the one with the flowers and do a little snip here so that I have a couple pieces to use. And this one's pretty dainty, so I just kind of dot little dots of glue on there. And I'm going to try to go behind this mossy meadow leaf. And that's actually sticking up more than I want, so I'm going to cut a little more off. And maybe just add a touch more glue here. There we go. I like that a little better. And let's see here. I think I could add lots of little just dots of glue. Okay. And then I want this branchy piece over on the other side. So again, I'm trimming it down. That's kind of the fun part about having these types of dies. You can customize them, you know, trim them down kind of to whatever size you need. And I like that kind of sticking out there. One item that I haven't shown yet that I am going to use, this is our ribbon. This is called the Rustic Striped Ribbon, and it is in the color Wild Wheat. And this is in the new mini catalog as well. This is another of my favorite, I know I keep saying I have favorite items, but this is one of them for sure. This and that plaid embossing folder are, because it's kind of see-through in the middle, it lets you very easily kind of modify it. So I'm going to cut 2 sections of this. They don't have to be the same length. And then I'm actually also going to cut them right straight down the middle. So kind of just slice. All right. And then I also just kind of like to pull at the strands a little bit, make it really stringy, kind of give it that rustic tattered look. Okay. All right, and then what I'm going to do is take all my strands, my long strands, and just tie them in a knot right in the middle. All right, and then these of course are way too long, but I wanted to make sure I had enough to work with. So let's give this a little bit of a haircut. And they don't have to be the same length. I like them to have varying lengths. And then I'm just going to use a glue dot and put it right here so that it kind of looks like it's at the bottom of our little arrangement. But it will also help connect, you know, the arrangement to the sentiment down here. So let's grab a glue dot. So the glue dots come in this box. They are on a roll. And I'll just grab one off the transfer paper and stick our ribbon right there. Okay, and then I did decide that I'm going to go ahead and use some dimensionals on the back of our sentiment. Nothing else is popped up, although there is plenty of dimension with the pieces that are kind of sticking up, and then this ribbon as well. So that just kind of helps give the sentiment a little bit of a lift. All right, so here is our card. I did go ahead and trim the ends of the ribbon down just a little bit more. I felt like it kind of maybe was just a little bit too long. So trim the ends of those. Now the very last thing that I'm going to do is add some little adhesive back dots. And I've been using these quite a bit for these fall cards I've been doing. I love this this particular one. However, it is not available for purchase any longer. So I would encourage, if you're wanting something like this, look in your stash, see what you have. Otherwise, I am going to link some additional options, current options that are available that would go along with this. What I really thought would be pretty is if I did kind of like a little bit of them like trailing down through this whole decorative piece here. So I am gonna, and I'm using my take your pick tool. I use the little sticky end, and it just helps me pick those embellishments right up off the backer sheet. Put a big one there, and let's see, we'll do a big one there. This one will probably be covered up by ribbon, but that's okay. I'm going to scoot that one over. Oops. Scoot that over a little. And we'll do some smaller ones up at the top. Let's see. And another one kind of in the middle-ish there. There's our finished fall-themed card using the Caring Leaves stamp set. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day.